Get started, Joe. Thanks for everybody for coming.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm going to unmute everyone at the end so we can get questions. And also thank you to everybody for sending in your questions. We're going to answer those too. There's some really good ones on here, and I'm hoping to address a lot of the questions in my talk today. So without further ado, let's get going here. Yeah, so California Condor recovery, I'm here to talk about today and Ventana's role in it. My name is Joe Burnett. I'm the senior wildlife biologist for the California Condor Recovery Project. I've been fortunate to be working on this project since, actually I came here in 1993 originally to work with bald eagles, and then that transitioned into condors in 96. And we got our start in 97, releasing condors in Big Sur. I have an awesome crew who are going to join me at the end of the presentation. We have Mike Stake, a fellow senior biologist. We have Amy List and Darren Gross, who are out in the field a lot, and they have a great insight to what's happening right now. So I'll get through my presentation, and those guys are going to come in and join and help answer some of these great questions. One of the big questions we get is, how many birds are there right now? We have 101 condors in the wild in Central California. That's pretty exciting. Shortly after we started releasing in 1997 and 1999, we documented the birds. The birds started to feed on their own. The first carcass was on a sea lion, and they have since found whales, deer, elk, all sorts of stuff. So that was a pretty exciting development. And then as recent as, and then following that in 2006, the birds began nesting. Here's a overview. The total, one of the questions we actually got from a member was it was from Natalie Kidder, and it was, what is the current population in the world? That's the top number you see there, 518. So to give you some perspective, 1987, there were only 27 condors left in the world. So conservation efforts, including Ventana's, have brought the species back, and we now have free flying in the wild, 337, 98 in Arizona, 200 in the wild in California, again 101 of those in Central California, and there's 99 in Southern California, and those are managed by the Fish and Wildlife Service. The Condor program is overseen by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. That's who we partner with, and then we also have a close partnership with Pinnacles National Park just to the east, and multiple zoos and multiple other players. So it's a huge team effort. There's also a wild population in Baja, and that's a partnership between Mexico and San Diego Zoo. There also are captive birds spread out through zoos, Oregon Zoo, LA Zoo, San Diego Zoo Global, are captive breeding birds, and that's the 181. Currently, the number one threat to our wild flocks, whether it's Arizona or California, is lead poisoning, and they get that from ingesting spent lead ammunition and carcasses, and it's the biggest threat to their survival. We are working, making huge efforts right now to mitigate that issue, and I'll talk more about that later. But let's get into the map here to kind of show the lay of the land. I'm going to use my mouse pointer here. You can see us up there on the coast. That's Ventana Wildlife. We work close with Pinnacles National Park, about 40 miles inland. And then we have down south here is the Southern California release site, and then over here, Vermilion Cliffs, you can see Arizona. And then down south is Baja. So that's kind of the lay of the land. That's where birds are being released actively right now. So we get these are kind of some of the Condor basics. We get these questions quite a bit. So I thought I'd hit some of the Condor basics, and these are some of the more frequently asked questions. The biggest one, obviously, is how big are they? They are 9 to 10. They have a 9 to 10 foot wingspan. They are the largest flying bird in North America, second only to the Andean condor in South America in the world. So they're some of the largest flying land birds in the world. Condors date back to the Pleistocene era. That was another question we got from Trina Rivas. How far back do the condors go? Quite a while in the fossil record. Condors are New World vultures. They're closely related to Andean condors and turkey vultures. Turkey vultures are their close cousin that you see probably more often than any vulture in North America. Here's kind of a size chart here. You can see like how much bigger a condor is than a turkey vulture. And the most distinct identifying feature are those white wing patches you can see right here. And obviously you can delineate them from a bald eagle, and that the bald eagle has this bright white head and bright white tail. So the condor, just the mere wingspan, and then the white markings are really clear indicators when you see one in the wild. Other cool metrics about condors, they're pretty heavy. I mean, 18 to 25 pounds for a bird is huge. These guys can fly on those massive wings. They can ride thermals, which are heated air rising up off the slopes in the mountains. If they get on a good thermal, they can ride a series of thermals for 200 miles in a day. So when they really want to move, they can do it. Where do they go? They go as far as the Southern Sierras. They go as far north as Livermore. I wouldn't say that's the common flight, but the core range for us is right around, the Big Sur Pinnacles mountainous regions. You're going to see condors where there's good wind, and that's typically up on the higher mountain ranges. In Big Sur, you can see them along the coast because the steepness of the mountains hits the ocean. So there's some really great viewing spots there. Here's a cool map that is generated using our GPS data. We have some of the condors are wearing GPS transmitters, and these are a combination of all the locations. And you can see it captured a trip by one of our birds all the way down from Big Sur. It flew all the way down the range, across the Tehachapi's, and then up into the Southern Sierras. It had joined up with the southern flock, and that was one of the biggest flights we've ever recorded. And then I was telling you earlier about we've had some flights up as far. You can see some of these little trail lines going up right below Livermore. So the birds are really moving. Here's the core range. This is where most of the birds hang out most of the time. And again, some of the best places to see them, again, is Big Sur on the coast, and then Pinnacles National Park is a really great spot. You hike up to the high peaks, great spot. And then, of course, we offer condor tours. Hopefully when the COVID-19 orders are released, we can get those tours going again, and we highly recommend those. You get to go and get a little more detail on where the birds are at. Here's an inset view. We had another cool question. We had another good question from one of our members. It was, are we likely to ever see condors in Carmel Valley, perhaps over Garland Ranch? This map, I think, best captures it. You can see we've had, not super common, but we do get movements up towards right on the southern part of Carmel Valley. So they definitely have gone over there. We've had them go over Lorale's grade and up north into the Santa Cruz Mountains. So it is possible to see the birds. I wouldn't say it's as common as seeing a bird in Big Sur, but they definitely do cruise up to that neck of the woods. Another great question, how long do they live? I think this was one of the coolest things when I started working with condors that really blew me away is they live 40 to 50 years, we think, in the wild, maybe longer. There's birds in captivity, Andean condors in captivity who are close cousins to Californians have lived into their 70s and 80s in captivity. So pretty cool to think they could potentially outlive us. So condors go through some growing stages. The top photo is a juvenile. This is typically how a condor will look up to about 2 years old. And then from about 2 to 5 years old, they'll be a subadult. And then they reach that beautiful mug on the right there. Bald and beautiful right there is the adult plumage. And they reach that at 5 to 6 years old. And that's also when these guys start breeding. So what do they eat? Most of you know this, but condors are scavenging specialists. They like to find stuff as big as whales. This is a whale they found in 2006. It was quite the sight to behold. It was pretty amazing. This hadn't been seen since the time of Lewis and Clark. This was the last time this was the first time since that point that condors actually been seen feeding on a whale. So this was a pretty exciting moment. Since then, they've found multiple whales, and they also feed on a wide range of other being scavengers, from whales to as small as ground squirrels inland. Condors are definitely opportunistic eaters, and you can definitely call them nature's recycler. They really serve an important role in the ecosystem in terms of cleaning things up. They are super well adapted scavengers. I love this photo. It really shows you how sharp their beak is. And it also, I think one of the more fascinating anatomical features of a condor is their tongue. And you can see it's got all these serrated barbs. And this is almost a scooped straw looking tongue. And they use that to help them scrape meat out from under the skin of carcasses. It's an incredible tool they use to make the job they do great. And of course, having a bald head, like my own here, really helps in reducing cleanup. You can actually clean up, and they can keep their heads fairly clean. So really cool adaptations for a big scavenger like this. And again, their vision is incredible. They can see and spot dead things from very high up, and from thousands of feet up. Condor courtship and breeding. This is another amazing thing to watch. People always ask me, what color is a condor's head? What color is their neck and head? And I can't pick one color, because as you can see in this photo, both the male and the female here have multiple colors going, almost a purple pink on the neck, and it transitions into this brilliant orange on the head. So really cool. And we believe it's a way they communicate to each other to let each other know who they're going to mate with. It's a great way to communicate. They don't have vocal cords, so a lot of their communication, we think, is through this basically nonverbal type communication. Head posturing, body posturing, head coloration, neck coloration. They do a courtship. The males will do a courtship dance for the female, and they're not all receptive. They have to kind of work at it, and eventually they find a mate, and their dance is accepted. And that's common in a lot of bird species. So this is kind of cool to see it with condors. And again, this is a real showcasing the coloration we see in breeding season, which is pretty amazing. So when condors lay an egg, this is a question we get a lot, and I think this will help explain that they're long-lived and they breed slow, and they lay one egg every other year because they spend that off year raising their chick in the wild. So after the chick leaves the nest, they spend another year with it to show it the ropes, show it where to feed, where to go. The best way to describe a condor egg, it's pale green, and it's literally exactly the size of a large avocado. It's about a ½ pound, almost exact weight of an avocado. They incubate that egg for 57 days on average before it hatched. Our egg this year on the cam hatched at 56 days. So anywhere from in that range. So a pretty long incubation cycle for birds. Where do they nest? Obviously, those of you who have been watching the cam know they're nesting in redwoods. That is the most common nest on the Big Sur coastline. Anywhere you have redwoods, the condors tend to pick those as their nest sites. Most of them are formed by fire. Fires will chimney out the tree, and then the cavity will fill back in and create a floor, and the birds go in, and they're quite big. I mean, you can see the photo on the left. That's a full-grown condor, and they make the condors look small. So that's how big some of these trees are. And you can see here, one of our biologists, that's Amy, standing in this is the redwood tree we put the cam in, and we're probably going in to do some cam work on this photo. Pretty cool. They also nest, and this would be a nest typical in Southern California and at Pinnacles National Park. These are cliffside nests, and they're in caves, and they're pretty inaccessible to predators, just like redwoods, to at least ground predators. And that's why condors choose them. They don't build nests. They basically will go in and clean a nest up. And I think you guys, we've had a few questions about that. Condors will go in and nest manicure. They'll go in and clean the place up. They won't necessarily bring stuff in, but they'll go in and tidy it up. And they do that throughout the nest season. Even when they have chicks in the nest, they're constantly picking at sticks and moving stuff around. So it's pretty cool. And this is a good example of a cliff nest. How long are chicks in the nest? Quite a while. I mean, like our cam this year, you're going to see this chick for 6 months. The average time they spend in the nest is about 6 months, and it's about 180 days when they take that first flight and leave the nest and branch out and start to follow mom and dad around. So you're going to watch a condor go from the size of the palm of my hand to full-grown condor over the next 6 months. At about 30 days, they're about the best analogy I can give is about the size of a chicken. They're about 4 pounds. And that's pretty fast because you consider, again, they're the size of my palm right now. That chick you're looking at on the cam right now will be that big in 30 days. So you're going to literally watch this little guy grow, little guy or girl. And here's a bird at 4 months. They're now about 16 pounds. They're reaching full size. They haven't quite gotten there yet, but they're almost full grown. And this is a bird right after fledge. This is after all the feathers are in. You can see the feathers are nice and clean and new. And it's taken its first flight, and that's right around 6 months. We've had quite a few on the Big Sur coast, and these photos I'm sharing, by the way, are from Tim Huntington, one of our longtime volunteers and really great photographer. So thank you, Tim, for letting us share your photos. They, again, spend the next year following mom and dad around, and this basically forces mom and dad to take a year off from nesting to raise their chick. So again, you got a long-lived species with a very slow reproduction. But again, they have a high survival rate with their chicks. So this is our results over the last, this is from 2006 to now. Again, this is for Central California. This is for Pinnacles and Big Sur. Our production is going up. We've had, like any nesting years, you have good and bad years. There's weather that factors in, but overall the trend is going up. And a big reason for that is that we have more birds. We have over 100 birds in the wild now. We have over 20 pairs now that are nesting, and they're alternating years. So any given year we have probably 12 to 13 nest attempts. And of those, we hope about half of those typically survive, produce chicks. And that's about where we want to be. To get this flock back to where, that's closer to what they naturally do. So it's a really bright outlook for condors. The wild populations have proven to us they can successfully nest on their own. They can forage on their own. We're pushing strongly right now to get free non-lead ammunition out there. We're temporarily not able to do that, obviously, because of the COVID-19. But once things clear up, we're going to get that program back up and rolling. We still are giving out bullets. We can do that in the interim, but we do hope to get the free non-lead cranked up again. And that's on the heels of a statewide lead ammunition regulation that went into effect July 2019. So that's going to greatly help the lead poisoning issue, which is the biggest limiting factor for recovery right now. We know the birds can do everything right. It's just more getting the lead poisoning out of the picture, and these guys are on the road to recovery. It's just a matter of us keeping the gas pedal to the floor, keep releasing birds, keep monitoring these nests, which this cam really helps us do, and keep a track on this flock. So the work's not over yet, but the future looks really, really bright. So 2020, this is this year's update. We've had 5 chicks hatched so far. So really great year. It's really sizing up to be a record year. If we stay on track, if these other 4 pairs incubate their eggs and we get 4 more, that'd be 9 chicks. And then we always have 1 mystery pair that sneaks under the radar, and they show up late in the season with a chick, which is always a great surprise. And it usually happens right around Christmas, ironically. So we are hoping that we could have a record-breaking year with 9 to 10 chicks. And again, the biggest news about our nest season this year is the great partnership in this nest cam we've started with explore.org. We launched back in 2018. They've been super supportive, and it's been a great, great collaboration. The nest cam, the best way to describe it, you really get an intimate, exclusive look at condor nesting. I mean, this is stuff we haven't seen as biologists. It's stuff no one has seen. So you're watching it with us, and that's what I love about it. You guys get to be the experts too. You get to see these really incredible interactions between a condor adult and their chicks. And what really helps it is we have this incredible cam. It's an HD cam that now has sound, which 2018, we didn't have sound on our cam. So we're all really excited to have that addition. Again, this thing's solar powered, so sometimes if we have a big storm roll through, the power, it might power down, we might lose a signal. But again, when that thing is running, it's not only a great outreach tool and a great way for everyone to see how condors are raised in the wild, but as biologists, we can't even put a value on how awesome it is to have this as a monitoring tool to check on this pair. This nest is pretty remote. It takes about half a day to get to it. You know, hiking through poison oak and really thick brush and steep terrain. So it really saves, you know, a lot of bushwhacking for us. And it really reduces disturbance at nest sites. We go in before the nest season, before the pair set up shop, and we get everything set up, and then we let the place go quiet, and then they come in and do their thing. So it actually allows us to do a lot less disturbance. So the redwood pair, this is our most famous pair, Kingpin and Redwood Queen. They are our two oldest birds. Kingpin is actually our oldest bird in the flock. He's 23 years old, which is crazy for me to think about because I actually released that bird back in 1997. And Redwood Queen, who's a year younger, she's 22. So it's just hard to get my head wrapped around sometimes when I think about how long I've known these birds. And they are our most experienced and most productive pair, which is no surprise. They've produced, including this year's awesome little guy, we're at 9 chicks. So this pair alone have just been a big part of the recovery of the species. And they deserve all the credit, if you ask me. So they last nested in 2018, and everyone watched, and the chick they raised was Pasquale. And I get a ton of questions. How is this guy doing? And he's doing great. In 2019, we trapped him. At that time, we did not know if he was a he or she. We have to send in a blood sample to San Diego Zoo Global, and they do a genetics test and tell us what the gender is. So we found out after we captured him and put a small tag on his wing, the blood sample came back and it was a he. So Pasquale's a boy, and he's been out there doing really well. This is a photo that was just taken about a month ago. Oh, sorry. Before I jump to that, just to speak to the tags, this is something we do and we've done since the beginning of the program is put ID tags on them. They're really critical at this stage in recovery. The color number combos on the wing tags help us identify individuals. And if we can identify individuals, we can track individual survival. And we piggyback that with a transmitter, which you can see on top of 199's tag here, the red 99. This is a radio. We also use GPS on a handful of birds. And again, the radio transmitters are ways for us to do welfare checks. Is the bird alive? And those transmitters are critical. The GPS have been revolutionary in telling us where condors go and tracking movements. And then again, without some of these transmitters, we would have a really hard time locating nests. So the transmitters are a really critical tool right now. We can't all wait for the day till when condors won't have any tags, but hopefully that's not too far off. Another great tool, if you are out in the wild and you do see a condor, there's a great website that's you can find through our website. It's condorspotter.com, and it basically you enter the tag color and the number you saw, and it will link you up with the bird numbers that you possibly saw, and then it will link to our website to learn more about that individual bird. Yeah, we have a list of all the condor bios on our website. Pasquale is doing great. This is a photo of Pasquale flying over Pinnacles National Park just about a month ago. So that's a great place to spot birds hiking up into the higher peaks around Pinnacles and again down the coast. Mile marker 41 is one of the hot spots to see condors in Big Sur. And again, when we get our tours back up and running, we'd be more than happy to take folks out. So I'm gonna get the crew back involved here. Let's see how I'm gonna do this. Sorry about just hang in here with me. I'm gonna get Amy and Darren going here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I can hear you.
Can everyone hear those guys? Thumbs up. And here, I'm going to get Mike. Steak is in there. I see him hiding down there. You're in too, Mike. So this is, what I did is I grabbed some video clips from the cam just to kind of highlight some of the cool stuff we've seen. This was right before the egg hatched. This was pretty exciting. You can see, you guys can see my mouse, you can see the pip site there. So the pip site is the first place condors open up, a condor chick will open up to breed. And so they start to make this large hole. And at this point, this is the day before it hatched. And you can see the pip sites, almost to see the bird moving. You can see them moving in there. See the chick's beak moving? And so they start actually huffing and communicating with mom and dad through the egg. And this is when they start breathing air. So they'll slowly work their way out of the egg, and mom and dad help them along. And about 24 hours after this was taken, the egg hatched. And this was the video the morning of that we figured out the chick had hatched. Obviously, we could see the egg off to the eggshell off to the left here, and then this was our first view of the chick right here. A really, really cool moment to see a chick literally hours old hanging out with mom, and here she is getting ready to feed it. And she's preening it, getting all the eggshells off it. There's probably some egg membrane on there that she's cleaning up. And I think yeah, here she is feeding it. And you can see they do that whipping motion with their head. And when you're not used to seeing that, it looks kind of weird. But once but they do it to force up and regurgitate meat. That's another question we have on our list here. They will actually store meat and then bring it to the chick and then regurgitate it to the chick. And as the chick gets older, obviously those meals get bigger and bigger. Right now, one bird could feed a chick for a couple days easily because the meals are so small. But as the chick gets older and older, that demand for food will grow. The chick will grow. The chick will grow louder. Things get pretty exciting, and you won't miss a feeding. It's hard to miss it. So this is a cool video. We were all excited because 190 was with the chick when it hatched. And it's always cool to see a bird, the other member of the pair, see the chick for the first time. So this is 167, has just hopped in the nest, and he's catching his first glimpse of the new prize in the nest here. It's kind of cool. And just in the past, he's an awesome dad. Amy and Darren can speak to it. He's almost, I guess you could almost call him a control freak a little. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. He loves taking care of his chick, and just before we started this, I watched him kind of push 190 away because it was his turn to have the little chick under his wing, and she didn't want to leave, so he had to kind of nudge her out.
Yeah, even in this video, you can see he's kind of has to push her off.
But yeah, he's just a really responsible parent. I guess you could call him a bit of like a helicopter condor parent. But yeah, he takes really good care of his children.
Yeah, these guys are definitely are at the top shelf. So here's another. This is a good video showing a feeding and just kind of a cool interaction between the chick and the parent. We get Darren and Amy. We definitely got some questions about how often they feed, right?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Well, just going back to what you mentioned about the regurgitation process, Joe, we have a question from Elizabeth Bettenhausen asking about how long can a parent regurgitate before she needs to eat again? And you touched on it a bit, but yeah, like right now, with the parents not needing to feed them much, like a parent can be with the chick for a while, a few days, but yeah, once the chick gets older and starts needing more food at a time, the parents need to take much longer to go out and find enough food to feed the chick, and they spend a lot less time in the nest with the chick.
Yeah, this video gets really good. You can just see that they have these really cool moments where it's just the parent hanging out with the chick and they're nuzzling each other, and this is a really cool shot. Yeah, so the chick just in the last day has really been opening its eyes more, and its neck's a lot stronger. It's not up on its feet yet, but it's definitely getting more mobile, you know, in terms of just being able to kind of move its head around. It eventually will just start moving around the nest a bunch. But yeah. So we wanted to first, we definitely got everyone's questions from all the members. And me, Amy, and Darren, we're going to go through some of those. I think the first one we have, let's see, I think it's, you got one, Darren, at the top there, right?
Yeah. So from Christine Heinrichs, this also goes back to the feeding, but how soon after hatching does the chick need to start eating? And really it's within hours of hatching. It really is just when the chick is strong enough to hold its head up and beg for food from the parents will feed it immediately. And that's typically within a few hours of it hatching.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I have another one here. This is from Candace Basham. I've been watching the Explore Nest Cam with the now over a day old hatchling. Kingpin has been on duty for a long time, since he first saw the chick. During what time can condors ride the thermals? So condors can ride thermals. They like it the peak part of the day. We generally say from about 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So midday is the best. That's when you got the most heat hitting the slopes and the best thermal activity. And then she also, Candace goes on to say, where does the other parent go while the other parent is in the nest? They're out searching for food and just kind of stretching their wings. You know, you can imagine sitting in a nest cramped up for a couple of days. It's probably nice to get out and stretch your wings. But their main priority is to go fill up and make sure when they come back, they have a crop full of food for their youngster. And how often do they switch duties? You're going to see that change as the chick gets bigger. Right now, they're doing about daily switches. As the chick grows larger, that they'll both come visit it, but they'll pop in and feed it and then get out of the nest because the chick gets so big that it's hard for them to be in there at the same time with mom and dad. And then let's see, do parents ever spend time together in the nest? This is probably the only time you'll see them together during a nest switch. They'll be in the nest together for 5-10 minutes at a time. But generally, because of space and the other one having to go out at food, there's typically only one in the nest at a time. I think Candace adds, I read that they leave an older chick alone in the nest. Yeah, once this chick is able to thermoregulate, meaning it's able to maintain its own body warmth, which is about 3 weeks old, the parents may start spending the night out of the nest. So when you see that, don't panic. The parents are nearby. They're probably just outside, literally just outside the nest where they can protect the chick. But that could happen. And it generally doesn't happen until the chick gets to about a month and a half old. And Candace also, is that safe? And, you know, they do have predators. You know, they have golden eagles out there. Great horned owls could even get a young chick. Especially, you know, aerial predators are definitely larger. Aerial predator type birds, raptors can be a problem, but it's very uncommon. It's not a common thing. The parents are really protective. A condor can scare off most large birds if they're around. So it has happened. We have documented at least one chick that was predated. We don't know what species got it, but it is a possibility. But this pair, they're pretty experienced. We think they're pretty good protectors. Okay, that covers Candace's question. I think, Amy, you got one.
Yeah. Let's see. A lot of people have been asking about the name of the chick, and we don't have one yet, but feel free to put in your suggestions. We won't know what the sex of the chick is until we eventually trap it and take a blood sample, as Joe was talking about earlier in his presentation. So gender neutral names, I suppose, are preferred. And let's see, Inez Horowitz asked about Kingpin and Redwood Queen seem to frequently look for something in the litter in their nest, or maybe just moving it around, fluffing it up with their beaks. Do you happen to know what it is they do? And you're spot on with that. As Joe also mentioned in his talk, it's called nest manicuring, but they're kind of just fiddling with stuff. You know, they're in there all day with their chick. They like to sort of nibble at stuff, and you'll see them also. It's pretty cute. Like they'll pick up a little stick and move it over so that their chick can play with it too. They're just kind of like little toys, but it's all just tree bark and fluff, so it's all safe for the chick.
Yeah, this is a good video. While you're talking, Amy, I'll have this video play. This is the chick starting to play with sticks for the first time. This is from today.
That's so cute.
It's really cute. And you can see the chick's stubby little wings. You can see how strong it's getting. Look how upright that chick is sitting now. It's getting a lot more fluff. But again, mom is right there watching it like a hawk. If she got suspicious of anything going on, she would be back over mantling over the chick like that you see them do. But this is a really fun video to watch. The chick just exploring its new environment, just picking at everything, testing everything, just like kids, you know. They're just exploring their environment. Yeah, let's see. We got some other questions here too. We got Carrie Morris. Oh, I love this. Redwood Queen is an amazing mother. We agree. Is Kingpin bringing food for the mother and baby? We've never observed it. Typically, they're just feeding the chick because the mom can leave once dad gets there and go get food. So yeah, that's a good question. But yeah, we haven't seen that where they feed the mate and the baby. How often does the chick need to eat? We answered that earlier. It ranges. Now it's a lot more frequent. They're more frequent but smaller meals. And as the chick gets bigger, closer to full grown, it'll be larger meals at a less frequency. Because the chick just gets so big, he almost beats up the parents trying to get food from him. Yeah. It's a pretty wild thing to watch. Yeah, and then this is Carrie Morris adds, is there anything that Ventana is doing to ensure food is safe? Back to what I was talking about with lead poisoning, we provide, especially because we're still releasing condors, we provide supplemental carcasses to the birds. They're stillborn calves donated by local farms. And we use that as not only to help for new birds going out and learning how to feed on their own, but also as a clean food source to help offset any potential lead poisoning. And again, the main tool is to really, these younger birds that are learning how to feed on their own, it's a good stepping stone for them. So this chick is most likely getting some of that, but this pair are pretty wild. They feed on their own quite a bit along the coast. So it's probably getting a combo of marine mammal flesh, and probably a little bit of stillborn calf in there, but mostly meat. Let's see. Darren, Amy, you guys see you got another question on there?
I can take one by Jason Clare. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but how long will at least one of the parents stay in the nest before the chick can be left alone? And as Joe mentioned, once the chick can thermoregulate, the parents won't necessarily be there in the nest with it as much after those few weeks. But they will be around the nest and coming to visit it until it fledges in those 6 months. And even then, they'll still be hanging out with the chick. So yeah, they'll be around the chick for a while and visit the nest pretty frequently.
Yeah, here's another video from today. It's pretty funny. If you watch the chick, it looks like it's totally asleep. And mom will doze off too while the chick is sleeping. And there she is, just kind of nuzzling the chicken to the bark. I don't know if she's picking at the bark or nuzzling the chick. But the chick does something funny here. You just kind of, I don't know if you just heard something or watch it. Wait for it. Wait for it. There it is. So he's already getting alert, or he or she is already starting to get alert and, you know, able to react. So it's pretty cool to see that much, to see the chick progressing as well as it has. So knock on wood that everything continues. And yeah, we're curious to see how long the eggshell is going to last in here, because typically disappears within the first week. We got any other questions? I'm going to switch over to the actual cam, if everybody's good with that. This is live right now. And, you know, this is kind of what you'll see a lot of the time, of just the parents chilling out with the chick. Just, you know, the chick will eat and then take a big nap, eat, take a big nap. There'll be periods of activity and inactivity. The cool part about the cam, and I think everyone has figured out, you can actually rewind the cam. If you go down here to this red line, you can drag back and watch different clips from earlier today. It's really fun, and you can go back, and anything you might have missed, you'll be able to see it. So it's a pretty cool tool that Explorer is built into this, into the function of this cam, that we really enjoy, because we can go back, and because somebody will post that they saw something really cool, so we can go back and look at it. Any other questions on there, guys?
Oh, Joe, real quick, I think Amy's muted. You might have to let her back in. But I don't know if we want to talk about it all. There was a question about from Cheryl Stauffer, just asking how, you know, what influenced us to become watchdogs for wildlife, and specifically for the condor. I don't know if we each want to talk about that a little bit right now, or toward the end. But yeah, so for me, I mean, I didn't really start with an interest, like a specific interest in condors. I was really into birds of prey for a while, but a few years back I did an internship with Ventana, and that really got me hooked on the condors. It's hard to, once you get on condors, you can't go back to anything else. I think, at least. So yeah, that definitely got me into it. They're just they're just very different from other birds I've worked with and have watched or studied.
Yeah, this might be a good time to unmute everybody. And we go to the, because I think we've hit a lot of the questions from our members. So I think this might be a good time to do the raise the hand. And I'm going to do my best to kind of pick people out, but I'm going to unmute all, and then once you raise your hand and you get picked, we'll unmute you so you can talk. We just want to avoid I just want to avoid a bunch of people trying to answer at the same time. So here we go.
Go under participants. There's a raise the hand button on the bottom.
Real quick, if you guys don't mind, I think we had a few questions about how are we keeping track of all the nests, other than obviously the one with the nest cam in it, during this shelter-in-place quarantine situation. And
oh yeah, good job.
Luckily, so far, like Joe said, we might have a surprise pair. It's always a possibility, but right now, at least one member of each pair is wearing a GPS. So using our GPS, which is downloaded daily, and we can go and check and see what they're doing. So we can get a pretty good idea from that. And what we're looking for there is basically, you know, are they still going to the nest? Are they spending, you know, an appropriate amount of time for whatever life stage the chick is in, whether that's incubation or onto, you know, what we're seeing now with 167 and 190, where they're just basically sitting with their chick. Because it's so tiny, they have to keep it under their wing the whole time, but they're still, you know, they're swapping out more frequently. So that's how we're doing that. And that's a tool that we've been using for a long time, because in Big Sur, their territory is so remote. A lot of these nests we can't physically make it out to. Maybe we go there once, maybe twice, because it's, you know, it's an all-day hike. So for now, we're watching them on GPS, and we've still got our slip cam that's rocking, and we've set up some extra trail cams to go through to just keep track of everyone. So that's how we're doing that.
Yeah, we got a question from Kathleen Wall. I think you can go ahead, Kathleen.
Yeah, I'd like to hear a little bit more from Darren as to what is it about condors that are different from all other birds? What more specifically hooked you into them?
Yeah, so just to say, this is just from my experience and my opinion, but I think that the condors have a pretty apparent and complex social hierarchy that I never really knew about until I came out here to work with them. And when you actually like see the birds interact with each other, especially like on the slope cam that we had going for a bit before this nest cam got ramped up, like you can just see how they interact with each other, and really like being able to spend so much time watching them, it just becomes clear sort of the different tiers of the hierarchy and who's where, and how, like, what that means for their interactions with each other. And that's just something I'd never really heard about or observed in other birds that I've worked with or read about.
Thank you. That's interesting.
And I think we had another hand raised. I don't see it on my screen, but it said there's another person. If you're out there, go ahead and.
No, Roger.
Go ahead, Roger.
Okay, I am there. I was just wondering, how far back in evolutionary history do the condors go?
Yeah, I did it. I touched on it at the beginning of the talk. They go back. They found fossil records that go back to the Pleistocene.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been found in the La Brea tar pits down there in Los Angeles, next to saber-toothed cats and woolly mammoths, and you know, they go pretty far back in the fossil record.
Okay.
Yeah, they once ranged over all of North America, which is interesting. There's fossil records for that, for Gymnogyps californianus, the California condor, in Florida and New York. So thousands of years ago, you know, I'm thinking probably 100,000 years ago, there were condors all over North America.
Oh, good.
And there was a bigger condor. They had a bigger cousin at that time too. That was probably pretty formidable.
The dinosaur bird.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I have a question. I'm not sure how to raise my hand. This is Jay. We talked about this at one of the board meetings, but could you explain why the cousins, the condors and the vultures are not affected by the lead poisoning to the same extent?
Hey, Mike, you want to tackle that one?
Why are vultures not affected by lead to the same extent that condors are? I believe that vultures and eagles and pretty much any avian scavenger is going to be affected by lead. We just don't see the effects quite as prominently with the other species. And part of that, I think, is regarding the life history of condors, how long it takes them to develop to breeding eggs, how few eggs they will lay in their lifetime, how long it takes those eggs to develop. I think all of that works against the condor in replacing their population numbers losses. And so while we see that there's mortality for vultures and eagles with lead, they can replace their numbers much quicker than condors because they reproduce much faster. That I think is part of it. Anything you'd like to add, Joe?
No, I think that pretty much captures it. Yeah, they just have they have a different niche in the life, you know, in terms of how fast they breed, and yeah, they're a little more sensitive.
And with the condors being so rare to begin with, we see they're so prominently. You know, vultures, they're still pretty numerous.
Great question. Anybody else?
Yes, I would like to know if the populations of condors from Baja California and from Arizona are completely isolated from the California ones, or is there breeding in between the populations?
Yeah, currently they're geographically separated, and that was by design. The thinking was that if you have two separate populations, that if something bad happened to one, that you would be able to fall back on the other one. But right now, eventually I think when we have Condor's number in the thousands, we'll be able to, they'll probably end up mixing, but it won't be for a while. But yeah, currently they're the same species, obviously, but they're not able to connect right now.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, go for it.
This is Nancy. I can't get my camera on, but that's okay. When will you do your first, go up to the nest and first check and do all of your health check or whatever for the baby chick?
So, we did that early on, and we did it more as a precautionary measure just to make sure there weren't any hazards we weren't aware of during nesting. Unfortunately now, because we know so much, we don't have to go in and do nest checks. And another reason is we have this cam to let us know everything's okay. If something were to happen and we were able to see it on the cam, we could go in and help the chick. But as of right now, we have no nest entries planned.
Okay, well, because I thought maybe you would go in and weigh it or take a blood sample or something.
Yeah, we used to.
Baby bird.
Yeah, we used to do that. We've gotten away from that because we're so successful at catching them after they leave the nest. And the less disturbance we can do to the pair, because anytime we enter that nest, it definitely stresses the pair out. And we're trying to just basically do as much hands-off management that we can. And it's part of when we're trapping the flock and replacing transmitters, we typically, if we catch one of the parents, we'll catch one of the chicks. So it's, after the chick is out moving around with mom and dad. So it's, at that point, the chick is a lot stronger. We're able to, in handling it, it'd be a lot safer. So it's a good thing that we're not having to go in anymore. It's a great transition. So that's where we're kind of moving towards in general. With as the population grows bigger and bigger, we're going to be forced to. That's a good problem to have, right?
Right. Yes, very much
It's
so.
poking it. It's poking it. It's mother or father's neck.
These are my favorite times to watch a cam right now. This is watching them play with the chick. It's just so awesome.
It's just poking.
I know. It's amazing.
How often do you see condors coming up to Livermore area? Because I live fairly close to that. It would be.
It's a summertime. In the summer, the days are longer, the days are hotter, so the condors can readily move more. And it's typically like a July thing. We'll have a handful of birds that make that journey up there.
Okay.
I think it had become more common as the population grows.
Right.
It's almost been directly proportional to how many birds we have out there. The movements out of Monterey, Big Sur, Pinnacle, and I think that's a natural thing. I think there's a natural population buildup, and it pushes birds out to try out and find new areas. Like we had said, we documented birds up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, almost making it to Año Nuevo. It's another cool spot. That's a potential food source up there. The elephant seal colony at Año Nuevo.
Yes.
That's pretty exciting. San Simeon, of course, there's everyone knows about the right near Hearst Castle, the big elephant seal colony right there off the Highway 1. There's definitely a surplus of food for these guys out there, which is a really great thing.
You guys are doing excellent work. I'm going to say goodbye and start cooking for my family.
Any other questions from anyone before we?
Yeah, Joe, this is me, Kelly. I just wanted early on, I was going to mention we have a couple of board members on the call today, and I didn't get to do that earlier. So I just want to recognize and thank Bill Eckert and Jason Clare, who are both on the call today.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, so, and, again, just to learn more about us, this is our website. We have tons of information on there. The Condor bios, we put a lot of time into. Again, you heard Darren speak to it, what really drew him to the birds. I think it drew all of us to the birds. We joke, one of the nicknames we have for condors is flying primates. They're very social. There's a hierarchy that governs the flock, hence the name Kingpin and Redwood Queen. They're kind of the king and queen of our flock. And for example, Redwood Queen, she was a youngster. She was very low in the hierarchy. And when she met up and paired up with 167, her status changed overnight. And as someone that watched her from getting beat up by all the birds to suddenly the seas would part when she arrived, everyone cleared out. It was literally a Cinderella story.
Wow.
So really cool but to see that with birds was really unusual. You know, something you expect to see with wolves or chimpanzees or, you know. So condors have really flipped the script on that. And I think for all of us that work with them, I think that's one of the funnest and most fascinating parts that just draws us in, because it's a soap opera out there. There's all sorts of stuff going on. We could do another whole Zoom meeting. Amy could just talking and giving you guys the scoop. Yeah, there's some really awesome behind the scenes stories of, and you know, some of them are sad. You know, with lead poisoning, we've had longtime pairs get broken up because one of the mates died of lead poisoning, and that's always sad. Because you knew they should have probably bred for another 20 years, you know. So it's some of these condors' lives are being cut short. So that's why we're being so proactive. You know, the great work Mike Stake's doing and Darren with non-lead outreach, and it can't be understated. That's really the solution moving forward. Besides the work we're doing, it's getting everyone to start using non-lead ammunition is really going to really save the species.
Joe, I have a question. This is Sue.
Hi, Sue.
In years past, you would often again take the chick out of the nest, and I believe one of the reasons was with the micro trash, and you would have to remove that. Is the micro trash not an issue anymore? Or?
No, fortunately it's not, and it never really was we had one incident early on when our birds started nesting. We think it was a young bird thing. You know, they were a young pair, and they had found an old dump site where Caltrans had dumped some broken PVC and stuff. And that chick, we ended up losing that chick that year because they fed it some of that. It actually looked like it was broken white PVC. It actually looked like crushed bone, but it was actually plastic. And the parents, we think it's just a lot of the micro trash is mistaken identity. You know, they're naturally out there looking for calcium. But fortunately, yeah, for Pinnacles and Big Sur, it's not an issue. Southern California had an issue early on too. It was a bigger, more serious issue down there. But again, as the birds have grown older, they've learned and they're seeing much less. That's becoming not an issue anymore, which is really great.
Thank you.
Okay, gang.
I think that's it.
Hello.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, I think we're gonna, Kelly, you want any last words or?
No, just thank you everybody for coming, and you know, we'll get through this together. Just stay safe, be well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
This
great
was
to get
awesome.
to communicate to communicate what's going on, and yeah, we can't say how much we appreciate the support, and especially the condors.
Yeah.
You guys are doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.